Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to touch on our 4th gen Ram and our LB7 Duramax. Talk about them, what's going on with them, our experiences with them, and what we're going to be doing moving forward. So this here is our 2003 Chevy 2500 HD with the LB7 Duramax. 4-wheel drive. We have a 12-inch lift kit, 37-inch tires, 22-inch wheels. As you can see, we have Nukezilla Chameleon paint, so it does change colors depending on the angle you're seeing it. So this is a pre-emissions truck, so that is one of the benefits of it. We didn't have to worry about deleting it or anything like that. So this truck has pretty much been in our family since brand new, and this is what it used to look like here. So about 4 years ago, we decided to start restoring it. We pretty much did a frame-off restoration on it for the most part. I can't even count how many things on it are brand new or were brand new when we started doing it. One of the first things we ended up doing was redoing the suspension. It used to have a 6-inch lift on 35s, and it just didn't hold up well over the years. You know, granted the truck is 15, 20 years old. So there was a few things that needed to be addressed. Our ball joints were pretty much shot, and the suspension angles were horrible before. The CV axles would actually bind up. As you can see there, we don't even have the keys cranked right now. It's all pretty squared off, almost like factory, as just it's 12 inches below where factory would be. For the rear suspension, we ended up getting Skyjacker. I believe it's a 5 or 6 inch lift leaf spring for it. That way we didn't have to stack blocks or any kind of the weird stuff like that. As you can see, we have our Gen Y drop-down hitch. And you can see our 4-inch exhaust split into duals in the back. So we do have a 12.5-inch drop Gen Y hitch on here, and it just barely does the job. And you can see, you know, the truck is dirty. It pretty much stays dirty. You know, although it does have a fancy paint job on it, we use it for what it's intended. Using 4-wheel drive, pulling trailers, whatever we need to do. It's really just a work truck. So about 4 years ago, we brought it from the farm and we started redoing it. You know, granted, life off a dirt road never treated it well after all that time. We ended up having to replace the fuel lines on it. We did the in-tank pump and a few other things. The injectors were probably done maybe 5 to 6 years ago. So when I say we started restoring it, I'll insert a picture here. And that's what it looked like at its peak of being disassembled. Just a bare cab sitting on a frame with the engine on it. So basically, this is my wife's truck. It was one of her dream trucks as a kid. So we ended up getting it, redoing it for her. As you can see, all the blue and turquoise, it actually matches the color, the paint flips, because it does both like a cobalt blue and the bright turquoise. And then naturally we have our blue seat belts over here as well. So from there we have full-on custom leather seats. If you can see the teal stitching in there. We have a suede headliner, no Starlight headliner in here. We weren't trying to go that far with it. Although we do have our ASA steering wheel, because that's a must-have in all of our cars. So this truck pretty much played a big part of our lives for a while. You know, both the wife and I, we really had an attachment to this truck. We built it into what it is now. It was a good truck for a while, but now it's just kind of getting up there in age. So we're about 800 miles shy of 300,000 miles on this truck. And it was good for a while, and then we didn't really drive it much while we were painting it and things like that. And, you know, addressing a lot of the issues that it had. So about 4 years ago, it had 294,000 miles on it. So we've put maybe just shy of 6,000 miles on it in 4 years. So we're kind of thinking we might end up getting rid of this truck, depending on a few things. It would definitely free up a good little bit of money. That way we can do some other things we're kind of planning after the move. Because really, she's kind of moved on from this truck as well. It's sad to say, but she'd rather drive the Range Rover than this most days now, just because of practicality. So right now it's kind of 50-50 as to what we're going to do with this truck. We're thinking about selling it, but if we end up having to do CP3 and injectors in it, then we'll probably end up keeping it for a while, because that's all that's really left to do on it right now at this point. You know, everything else been replaced aside from CP3 and going to bigger injectors. So that's pretty much where we're at on this. And then from there, this is our 2012 Ram 1500 Bighorn. And that's pretty much the real reason we would end up getting rid of the Duramax. So the Duramax is just shy of 300,000 miles. This thing's pushing 330,000. And really, in general, we haven't had to put much money into this, maintaining it. About 75,000 miles ago, I rebuilt the engine in it. And I think about a year or so ago, the truck was rear-ended, so I ended up doing a repair to the back driver's side. And that's when I ended up two-toning it, doing the 2500 front bumper and that sort of thing. Just because if I had to paint all the stuff anyways, I may as well do the next step on it. So I paint matched the bumper silver to do the two-tone on it. That way I'd kind of get a jump on what my other plans for this thing are. And this will probably sound crazy to most, but between the two trucks, I think I'd rather keep the 4th gen Ram, just because of reliability. Even though it has 330,000 miles on it, basically, it's been such a good truck. Pretty much every Hemi Ram I've had has been outstanding. You know, the only reason I've really gotten rid of them is to upgrade them. But this truck, you know, it's still pretty current body style. You know, they still make 2022 classics that are the same pretty much. It's just the interior is different mostly. So if we end up selling the Duramax, we're probably going to take the 4th gen and do a leveling kit in the front, just to put a little bit chunkier wheel and tire underneath it. I'll probably take the steps off, do away with all of the chrome on it, change up the grill, front bumper a little bit. As far as paint work, I think I have different headlights for it as well. So this truck is due for a detail, obviously. We haven't really had time to clean it the last week or two. But as you can see, we ended up doing a V6 fan conversion on this truck, as it is a 2012. So we did away with the clutch fan, and we installed the bigger fan from one of the V6 models. And this thing works like a champ. We have a lower thermostat in there. The truck is cammed. We did an MDS delete and a few other different things. So, you know, we do have a few little things done to it. Nothing crazy. Just kind of keeping it on the road for now. But it's set up in a way that we have some potential down the road. So to recap, 50-50 as to whether the Duramax is staying. This one is definitely staying. The 300 may or may not make the long haul. I haven't quite decided on that one yet. We're probably going to go back to another Range Rover because that's what the wife wants. So as far as our Camaros, we're going to be pulling the engine out of this Z28 and throwing it into our fixed roof coupe, doing a wide body kit on the fixed roof coupe, and kind of going from there. This one might be a little bit more out there, as this is a car I don't plan on getting rid of because of sentimental reasons. It's here to stay, so I may as well do something weird and crazy to it. So we'll end up having our T-top shell as well, which I might have an idea for that, what I'm going to do with that after it's stripped out. But for now, that's on the back burner. From there, we have our 98 Chevy Silverado. This one I'm painting back very similar to original green, a little bit more metallic in it, doing a silver two-tone, fender flares down the body line, much like I did with the 4th gen Ram. We'll end up getting like stock OE 20s for it. That way I can pull these wheels off of it. And we'll be putting this one for sale, 100%. That's the plan for this, because I need to get rid of this truck. It's pretty much irrelevant for me at this point. I don't need another truck. Our 47 Chevy pickup. This one will be a project for 2023. Probably one of the main ones. I'll probably be doing this side by side the Camaro build, because we do have a clean Florida title for this one. I have fenders and quite a few of the body parts for it. As you can see, somebody tried to do some work on it before. You know, there's a lot of mud in here. Lots of surface rust. They tried to fill in all the door handle, key locks, all that stuff. So we'll be digging all that back out to do it a different way. So it's a pretty solid cab, other than down here on the bottom, probably the bottom 4 inches or so around the cab. We do have a good little bit of rust, but for what we want to do, this cab will be perfect. But you'll see kind of more on this pickup when we get into it. You know, there isn't a whole lot going on right now with it. As far as the Bronco, it's painted. I just have to start putting it back together, going through the seals on it. And we'll be still building the console for it and that sort of thing. So this one should be out of here by the end of the year. We'll actually be getting the seats upholstered probably in about 3 to 4 weeks is when our appointment for upholstery is. So that's pretty much the plan for the Bronco. We just got to knock it out real quick, put it back together, and it's done and out of here. As far as our Wheelies CJ2, this thing should be out of here by Thanksgiving at the latest. So we are just tying up a few loose ends mostly. We have to plumb the engine, you know, do some organizing of the wires. So we're making this little bracket here for overflow tank for the coolant for the radiator. Other than that, we just have to start plumbing things, like our water line that goes down into the water pump. You know, run our fuel line up to here, connect everything. And that's pretty much it where we're at with this. But this thing was literally frame off. Every nut and bolt was replaced on it. So that's pretty much where this thing is at. We have a worn winch up here. You know, it's a little OE plus, I would say. All the drivetrains out of a CJ5 from the late 60s, early 70s, because they originally had the little inline 4 in them. But now we'll be making a little bit more power with this Dauntless. As you can see, I hand painted all the Wheelies logos in it. The one on the back tailgate, as well as the 2 on the hood, and the one up there on the windshield. So that's where this one is at right now. To skip over to 300 for a minute, you'll see I have original front and rear bumpers back. So I might temporarily do it back stock for a little while, at least for the move, until I figure out what exactly I want to do with this car. You know, if you've seen the interior already, you know that I've done quite a bit of work to it inside. You know, we have the nice SRT seats in here. We did the dash. We upholstered the console. So that's pretty much the direction this was going. And as you can see, our Lloyd floor mats down there. We already did a ton of engine work to this thing. I ended up losing a lot of the video footage from that. So there probably won't be a video on the engine stuff. As far as right now, our wheels are getting powder coated. So we have stock wheels on there for a little while. But I think I'm just going to get this thing painted and kind of see where I'm at in a couple months after we drive it painted up. Because this one might be going too, because I have a few other cars in mind that I'm thinking about getting instead. You know, the 300's good, but I just don't know if I'm that committed to it yet. I like the 300, you know, it's a good car. But if I want to get some other vehicles, I need to get rid of a few of them. I've come to realize that I can't just hoard everything I buy. So that's kind of where the 300's at for now. So that's what we're at with some of the projects. If you're looking at a 4th gen Ram Hemi, definitely all day long, yes, do it. No regrets. I just wish I would have gotten a second one that was 4-wheel drive to have aside from this one. And that's mostly just because I use 4-wheel drive a lot because of the areas where we're usually at. I don't know why, but one of my big things is I really wanted the console shifter. I don't know why, I just like that so much. We looked all over for this truck back when we first bought it about a decade ago. And this was probably one of like 2 that actually had the console shifter. But this one sold us. And as you can see, we're at almost 327,000 miles. So if you've watched a few of my videos on where we do updates on this truck, I can't say enough how much I enjoy this truck. It's probably been one of my favorites. And extremely reliable. We've redone axle seals in it, but again, that's probably because of mileage. I rebuilt the engine, rebuilt the transmission, and those were both maybe 100,000 miles ago, in the mid 200,000 mile range. The transmission was rebuilt at like 230,000 miles for the first time. The engine was about 250,000 miles on it. So that's where we're at now. And I mean, I have no complaints about it. It's been a great truck. So if you're looking at buying one of these 2 kind of trucks here, I love the Duramax, but practicality wise, it's always broken. Go with the 4th gen. It's a whole lot cheaper, especially for the mileage. I mean, I probably have about 15 grand into maintenance on that Duramax, and we're maybe 5,000 or so, 6,000 on the Ram, and it's went a further distance in about half the time. And if you don't know this already, I used to have a 3rd gen Ram that sat pretty much even with the Duramax there. Great truck, but I ultimately got rid of it for this one here, just because the cab size, having our daughter, it was kind of nice to have a little more space in the cab. So I ended up selling my 3rd gen, one of the blue ones, I should say. Then we ended up getting the black one that I gave to my cousin. And that's probably one of maybe 24 Rams we've had in the family. But 4th gen, definitely here to stay. So after the move, this thing will be getting a little bit of a lift, wheels and tires, doing a chrome delete, changing up the headlights, a few different little things, you know, just some cosmetics here and there. I'll probably end up redoing the interior in this one as well, just to kind of modernize it, because the seat foam's a little crushed in it. The driver's seat ripped up. I don't know if y'all saw that earlier, but the driver's seat ripped up. I ended up stitching it back because of a wear. Why bother getting a new one right now? But I got new seat foams for it. We're probably going to do interior in it. I might, but I don't know yet. It'd be pretty cool to change all this tan gray color, I forget what they call it, over to maybe a navy, and doing the whole interior in the truck black and navy two-tone. As you can see the tan over there. I definitely want to do the roof line black like I did in the Duramax and get rid of the tan, much like, you know, the newer 5th gens have. You know, the whole cab is just blacked out inside, and that's a pretty cool look that I like. So that's probably where we're going to end up going with this, because truth be told, this truck is pretty much about in retirement now. We've probably got about 2 months left, and then it gets to relax. I'll probably tow some things with it moving, but that's about it. After that, I'll probably just daily it, you know, here and there, running errands. As far as the Duramax, how do I even begin to explain? It's a love-hate thing. I love the truck. When it's doing good, it's great. When it's not doing good, it's a disaster and expensive. You know, some of my earlier videos, I actually had the transmission housing shear in half, and I just didn't even want to look at the truck for a few months because I was so annoyed with it. Because to summarize that, we had just gotten the truck done again. This was December of last year. We had just gotten the truck done. I spent about $4 grand on these wheels and tires. I put them on December 23rd of last year. December 26th, the transmission sheared in half. And I really didn't fix it for probably 3 to 4 months. I think it was March of this year, I got it back running again, which I think you saw some of those videos. We drove it around for a little while. We took it on a road trip, and as soon as we got back, it started having fuel issues again. And ultimately, either my CP3 is dead or I have a bad sensor. So I had the sensor coming because everybody seems to think that's what it is. I mean, I know the life this truck has lived. It's been rough. You know, it's been decently maintained, but it's also been through the ringer. You know, living on a dirt road, blowing out the suspension on it pretty much. You know, it has 300,000 miles. It's a good truck when it runs, but when it breaks, it's gonna be expensive. And honestly, I think a lot of this is just, you know, when you're younger, you enjoy things like this truck right here. But now that we're kind of getting older, you know, starting a family, you know, we have priorities. Fixing a truck that's always broken just doesn't seem fun anymore. For a little while, I was joking that literally every time it leaves the driveway, it breaks. Aside from when we took it on the road trip, it did pretty great that whole time until we came back, and literally the next day, it just didn't want to run anymore. It was done. So we'll fix it again, see how it goes. Depending on what happens, kind of depends on if we sell it or not. If you're thinking about getting an old Duramax truck, just be aware that you're getting into a whole financial bind. It's not if it's going to happen, it's when. Something's going to break, and it's going to cost at least $2 grand to fix anytime. For most of the people that know this truck, it's probably one of the cleanest in town. as far as being, you know, a 20-year-old Duramax Chevy. You know, there's no rust, it's not beat, it's not filled with Bondo. It's a good, clean truck. It's been well maintained, but even then, you know, it just breaks. It's a 20-year-old truck, it happens. You know, especially when you have, you know, 12-inch lift, a tuner on it, you know, 37-inch tires, stuff's gonna break. It's not babied, it's very stressed usually. You know, doing this, pulling a trailer, good times. If you just want one of these trucks and you don't care about the financial burdens that come with it, by all means do it. Just know what you're getting into. But if you want something that's nice, reliable, and you aren't going to have to worry too much about it, 4th gen Ram all day long, no doubt. Although granted, being mechanically inclined, I don't mind too much having to rebuild an engine, especially a Hemi. They're pretty easy. So just know they are prone to, you know, the lifter failure. It eats the cams, that sort of thing, which that actually might be another phase I end up going through on this truck. I got a few different parts for it. I finally got my hands on a Hellcat oil pump, brand new from Mopar. And a lot of people are saying that helps with the Hemi tick, but we'll have to see about that. I'd kind of like to go through the engine again here fairly soon anyways, being that we're coming up on 100,000 miles on the engine rebuild. So it'd be kind of interesting to see, you know, if it's having any kind of issues, you know, what's going on with it. And while I'm doing that, I might swap the oil pump out, do a couple of little things to it, maybe change out the cam again to something a little different. And, you know, maybe not being so concerned about the miles per gallon this thing gets, which actually it's not bad depending on, you know, 15 minimum usually on a bad day. And that is with MDS deleted and all that. So that's it for these two today. Comment down below if you think we should keep the Duramax or not, because that's kind of something we've been torn on. You know, if y'all want to see some content on it, we can do, you know, the engine rebuild, doing a few things. That truck is actually pretty decent, you know, doing off-roading, things like that. And with our new property, we can probably get into some of that, and it would probably be fun with the truck, although we will have ATVs up there to do some things with as well. You know, it's kind of been a little while since I've uploaded. There's a lot of stuff going on. If you've been following for a little while, you kind of know the plan of us moving to the new house. We have some land up there. You know, we're trying to do a couple different things. I'm back working full-time again as well. So I might be changing up a few things. We're definitely changing up some cars. Also, comment down below if you want to see, you know, more of, let's just say, German cars, Porsche 911s, older Mercedes from the early 2000s, late 90s. Because I'm thinking about getting back into, you know, the older German cars, early 2000s, late 90s, mid to late 90s, I should say. Mercedes CLs, you know, the S-Class coupes, basically. As well as some of the 911s. I would really like to do a wide body kit on a 911. Kind of go back to a few German cars, but not base everything around that. I do like a whole assortment of different cars. You know, being my generation, there's a lot of different things I like. I like older 70s muscle cars, you know, GM, Dodge trucks. You probably won't see too many Fords here, other than, you know, a lot of the Bronco, OBS stuff. But there's about to be a lot of changes here in the coming months. So just bear with me. I'm kind of working on trying to get some things sorted out and figured out as far as our future here moving forward. I haven't really been doing the best at content lately because I've just been jumping around so much. It's hard to make a video and title it on something when really I'm doing 20 different things at once. I feel like that just wouldn't be something people would want to watch. So here in the coming future, after the move, we're definitely going to be changing up a few of the cars, doing a couple different things. mostly kind of downsizing, not having so many cars, if that kind of makes any sense. We'll have two main projects. We'll be doing the 47 Chevy pickup, full conversion, resto mod. I'm actually going to be quartering the cab, doing a ton of metal work on it. And as for our 4th gen Camaro, that's going to be fiberglass work. So we're going to be doing a fiberglass wide body kit on it. So if you're interested in those, be sure to stick around for that. Also, our 98 Chevy, I'll probably do a little video series on that. Basically, start to finish, prepping it for sale, you know, painting it, doing the interior, you know, whatever little things I need to do. I know I need to do the steering rack in it and go through the steering system on it. Other than that, that truck's pretty well sorted. But also, let me know in the comments down below if y'all want to see more with a 300. I pretty much did all the motor work to it. That video footage got lost. My 20s are getting powder coated at the moment. I should be getting those back this coming week. I think Jamal said on Saturday or something he's going to get started actually coating them. They're already sandblasted and everything sorted out. He just has to coat them again. But as far as the 300, I think all that's really left is painting it and then figuring out if I want to keep with the front bumper I was going to put on it or prep it for sale too. I'm not really sure. I like the car, but at the same time there's other things I'm thinking about replacing it with, and it just doesn't make sense to have so many cars sitting around, especially, you know, ones I have tag and insurance for. Because ultimately we've kind of been thinking about like selling the Duramax, keeping the 4th gen Ram. She wants a Range Rover, she'll daily that. And for me, I'm either looking at going back to a Challenger or maybe a 911 or Mercedes CL, something similar. I'm sure I can figure out something fun to do with one of those. So with that being said, it's kind of funny. I've been joking that I broke my wife. She used to be really into, she had like a mid-90s GMC, regular cab, short bed, V8 5-speed truck. It got totaled on our first date. And then from there, she wanted the Duramax. And now she doesn't care about the Duramax. She wants the Range Rover back. Yeah. And honestly, I get it. I like the Range Rover too. It's nice. He did cool massaging seats. It's kind of something you get acclimated to. And once you have it, it's kind of hard to go back from that. But also back in my body shop days, I was really into the 996, 997 Porsche 911s. So it'd be cool to go back to one of those. But it all just kind of depends on going forward. We'll definitely have the garage space. It's just a matter of how many cars do we really need. And also, if you're from the other area where we live, you don't want to be taking a Range Rover to Peachtree Mall. I can tell you that much. As it is, it's kind of sketchy taking the Duramax to the Peachtree Mall. But also, and this is going to sound crazy, let me know in the comments down below if y'all want to see something like an 04 to 06 Cadillac Escalade, Hummer H2, GMC Denali, something to that extent. I've kind of been thinking about going back to one of those as well, especially since I have period correct 24s over there on the 98 Chevy. It'd be kind of cool to do like a 2004-ish build. That's kind of when my generation started getting into cars, me and John. You know, we were around that time, the whole Pimp My Ride days. So it'd be kind of cool to have an Escalade, you know, paint up nice, do the 24s on it. Something kind of random to roll around in. You know, I used to be a big fan of those. We had a couple of them. But if I was to do that, we would probably end up selling the Duramax, just because that would be the same general idea as something just ridiculous, chameleon rims. You get the idea. But picture this, an 04, 05, 06 Escalade ESV on 24s, to match the 300. Wouldn't that just take you back to 2004, 2005 right there? The peak of weird car random craziness. So let me know in the comments down below what y'all are thinking about some of those ideas, different cars I'm looking at. If we should sell the Duramax or not, if we should sell the 300 or not. But basically, Camaros are staying, 4th gen is staying for sure. The rest of it, I really don't know yet. So that's it for today's video. I'll try to be uploading a little bit more in the next week or so. It's just been really crazy here with everything going on. We just had the hurricane, trying to move, trying to get some work done, working full time, doing the cars. You know how it goes.